In 2023, Harvard researchers gave people small bruises on their forearms and then sat them in rooms with clocks. Some clocks ran at normal speed, some at half speed, and some ran at double speed. The actual time in every room was identical, 28 minutes. The only thing that changed was what people believed about how much time had passed. And surprisingly, the wounds healed faster when people thought more time passed, and slower when they thought less time had passed. They all had the same injury and waited the same 28 minutes. The only variable was belief and expectation. The lead researcher even later admitted he did not think it would work, but it did. That study made me wonder, if belief alone can change how fast you heal, what else is your perception of time doing to you that you have never noticed? Because we treat time like something that happens to us, like gravity or the weather, something we just move through, but the research tells a different story. Your brain is actively constructing your experience of time, moment by moment. And once you understand how that process works, you can warp it in your favor. Let me ask you something. Do you remember how summers felt so long when you were a child? July felt like a whole lifetime. Every day had so much to it. Even the sunsets seemed to stretch out in front of you like it would never end. At least for me, I remember riding a bike to my friend's house, and by the time I came home for dinner, it felt like a week had passed. Now think about last year. Can you even tell the months apart? This is not just nostalgia playing tricks on you. There is a real reason why time seems to speed up as you get older, and it actually has a few layers to it. In 1897, the French philosopher Paul Janet proposed a concept called log time. He said that each passing year represents a shrinking fraction of your total lived experience. Let me explain. When you're 10 years old, a single year is 10% of everything you have ever known. That is enormous. But by the time you're 40, that same year is only 2.5% of your life, which means it feels roughly 4 times faster. At 60, a year is less than 2% of your lived experience. So time is not actually speeding up, but proportionally, each year takes up less and less room in the whole. So it feels like the world is accelerating around you. That is a somewhat mathematical answer, but there are also biological ones. Your brain measures time based on how many new memories it creates. When you encounter something you have never seen before, something surprising or meaningful, your brain processes more information and records more detail. That expanded recording is what makes a stretch of time feel long when you look back on it. And that is why 1 week vacation in a new country can feel longer in memory than 3 months at home. Your brain had more to work with, and when your days are routine, when Monday looks the same as Tuesday, and every week blurs into the next, the brain stops recording in detail. The neurons become more efficient, but they capture less data. And so 100 days of the same pattern collapse into a single unit in your memory. So routine compresses time, novelty expands it. Another emerging hypothesis for that feeling of accelerated time is that as we age, the perception of time changes partly due to cognitive decline, which affects our ability to encode memories. However, the research on this shows the effect is moderate. Now here's a little modern paradox. Most of us live inside routine. It's undoubtedly useful, but nowadays we optimize for productivity. We build systems that make our days efficient and predictable to make more time. But in doing so, we are compressing our own lives without realizing it. We trade the feeling of time for the efficiency of time. And when we look back at 40, at 50, at 60, and question where it all went, the answer is, it went exactly where we put it, into a frictionless pattern that the brain decided was not worth remembering. But it doesn't have to be that way. The writer Kurt Vonnegut once told a great story about this. He needed to mail a letter, but he realized he didn't have any envelopes. So as he was heading out the door to go buy one, his wife calls after him and basically says, "Dude, you're rich. Why don't you just order 1,000 envelopes and have them delivered?" And he said, "Hush." So he walks outside to the newsstand across the street, gets in line, and starts talking to the people around him. He notices that many people are buying lottery tickets. Then the woman behind the counter starts talking with him, and he ends up asking and chatting about any recent lottery winners. He buys his one envelope, walks to the post office on the corner. He recalls how one time he had his pocket picketed in that same post office and ended up spending an hour talking to a cop about it. And it was fascinating. So he stamped the letter, mailed it, and walked home. And his conclusion was this. He said, "Not only did I get my letter shipped, but, quote, I have had a hell of a good time doing so." Then he said his famous line, how beautiful it is to get up and go out and do something. We are here on earth to fart around, and don't let anybody tell you any different. Maybe that's true. Sometimes friction is the point. Efficiency would have saved him, 20 minutes? But the errand gave him a memory, and memory is what time is made of. So if routine compresses time and novelty expands it, what else can stretch the way you experience reality? Hey, quick pause. This channel is all about upgrading your life holistically, mind, body, and inner world. So I'm thrilled to introduce today's sponsor, Shenyun Performing Arts. Shenyun is the world's premier classical Chinese dance company. Their mission is to revive 5,000 years of Chinese history through dance and music. I've personally watched the show for several years now, and now I try to go every single year. Why? Well, they have impressive Chinese dance built around stories like Journey to the West, The Monkey King, and tales of loyalty and resilience. But also, for someone like me who loves classical music, they have a live orchestra that blends Western and traditional Chinese instruments together. And the sound is super unique. I've never heard anything like it. And the show is anything but boring. They have an animated backdrop that interacts with the dancers in real time. So it feels like a movie, a live show, and a history lesson all combined. And almost without realizing it, you walk out having learned a ton about Chinese history and culture, but also, I would say, you feel truly uplifted. Shenyun is on tour right now for its 20th anniversary. They have 8 companies touring to like 200 cities worldwide. New York City at Lincoln Center is coming up soon, and there's a very good chance they're near you. And I have good news. They've given you, our viewers, a code to waive the booking fee. So, if you've ever been curious about the show, want to experience a different culture, or simply be entertained, this is your chance. Use the code MAKAI26 at checkout. Click the link in the description, find your city, and get your tickets. Again, that's code MAKAI26 at checkout. Okay, back to the show. There's a reason people in car accidents or violent encounters report that everything moved in slow motion. It is not a trick of memory after the fact. The brain is actually processing faster in those moments. Researchers tested this by showing people scary clips from films like The Shining, and then asking them to estimate how long a simple image stayed on the screen afterward. People who watched the frightening clips consistently overestimated the duration compared to people who watched neutral or sad films. Why? Well, fear accelerates your internal clock. Your body enters into fight or flight, and the brain starts ticking faster, measuring more units of time per second. Because your internal clock is running faster, the external world appears to slow down. The brain is processing information at a higher resolution, giving you more time to react, to decide, and ultimately to survive. But fear is not the only emotion that bends time. In 2012, researchers found that when people experienced awe, whether from a powerful story, a vivid memory, or standing in front of something vast, time felt more abundant. Not faster and not slower, just more available. As if there was more to simply go around. This is based on the extended now theory. When you feel awe, your attention orients itself entirely into the present moment. You stop racing toward the future, and you stop replaying the past. And because your full awareness is concentrated right here, right now, that moment stretches and takes up more room in your experience. The study also found that people who felt awe became less impatient, more willing to help others, and more drawn to experiences rather than to material things. And this connects to another finding that I think is beautiful in its simplicity. Researchers had people take walks of the same duration in 2 settings, one in nature and one in the city. Which group do you think felt time go slower? As you might guess, the nature group overestimated how long their walk took by nearly 2 minutes. Being in nature pulls your attention into the present moment and lowers stress, both of which slow the internal clock. The researchers literally concluded that, quote, time grows on trees. If you ever need to buy yourself a little more time, you can find it outside. There is also practice that takes almost no effort and changes how time feels inside an ordinary day. Psychologists call it savoring, and the concept is super simple. Instead of rushing through a moment, just take 2 more seconds with it. Say you're drinking your coffee in the morning. Instead of swallowing and then reaching for your phone, you pause, you taste it, and you feel the warmth in your hands. That's it, 2 extra seconds. But those 2 seconds act like invisible expanders inside your day, little pockets of presence that make the difference between a day you rush through and a day you actually lived. You can be productive all day long and still feel like you missed something. Savoring does not ask you to slow down your schedule. It doesn't take more time. It just asks you to show up for what is already happening. And all of these line up with research on meditation. Experienced meditators consistently report that time passes more slowly, both during practice and in their everyday lives. The explanation is that meditators are more present in the moment, so they can catch more details, which, as we covered earlier, become memory anchors that make time dilate. Time is highly malleable and relative. As Einstein once explained, put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. So your mind can bend time in real, measurable ways. But there's a deeper layer to all of this, which I think matters more than any single technique. Most people treat the fact that life is finite as something heavy, morbid, or something to contemplate later. But research points in the opposite direction. Awareness of finitude is one of the most clarifying and freeing things for a human being. When you truly accept that your time is limited, that every single choice you make carries the cost of every other path you could have walked, something changes. You stop drifting on the arrow of time and you start choosing with intention. A longitudinal study tracked about 1,000 college students and found that those who value time over money were more likely to choose paths that actually meant something to them after graduation. A year later, they reported greater overall well-being than those who prioritized money. And there's another piece to this that I find really compelling. During the pandemic, researchers discovered that people who felt socially isolated experienced something they called temporal rupture. They lost track of days, they could not recall past events, and they struggled to imagine a future. Their sense of time literally fell apart. But people who maintained close relationships kept their orientation in time. So how should we spend our time? Well, the data point to doing things that are inherently valuable with the people you love. And of course, I think enough has been said about this. Stay away from screens. But aside from that, just try new things. You can just do things. Tomorrow, try driving without the GPS. Take a road you have never been on and see where it goes. Order something on the menu you can't pronounce. Walk to the store instead of ordering online and actually talk to someone while you're there. Maybe call someone you love on a Tuesday for no reason, or go on a spontaneous adventure outside. None of these things are big moves. They don't cost much or require a plan, but each one gives your brain something new to record. And that is what separates a year you remember from a year that disappeared. You don't need more time. You just need more texture inside the time you already have. We all get the same 24 hours. The clock does not care what you do with them. So the question is, how are you going to spend yours? If this changed how you think about your day, subscribe. Every week, we explore interesting topics like this one. And leave me a comment and tell me, what is one moment this week you want to savor instead of rush? And share this video with someone who might need to slow down. I'll see you in the next one.